Does the abundant life that you desire ever feel just out of reach? What if abundance isn't something that you work towards, but instead is something that you have to practice experiencing? Because the reality is that I spent years chasing more and more money, that thinking once I got there, all of my problems would be solved. Newsflash, even when I made more money, the kind of freedom that I was looking for was still missing. So if you've been working towards a free and fulfilling life forever, but you haven't been able to get there yet, then this episode is for you. Hello there, happy Money Monday, and welcome back to another episode of the Empowered and Abundant podcast. And today we are going to be talking about emotional capacity. Now, what does that have to do with living your most abundant life? Because that's what we're all about over here at the Biz Hippie, is having the money, having the time, having the freedom, having the ability to live a life that you truly love. And emotional capacity plays a huge, vital role in your ability to actually live your most fulfilling, thriving, and abundant life. And if anything, it's actually the foundation to living your most abundant life. And this is something I talk about all the time. And it's really, really important, which is why I was like, I just have to record a whole podcast episode on this. Now, before we dive in, I have to let you know that I have just spent the whole last weekend at adult camp, which is like summer camp, but for adults, where you go and they have all these activities like ropes course and whatever, like softball games and volleyball and the lake and all these fun things. And it's all adults only. And so I've been living it up, living my most abundant life, especially at summertime as I'm recording this. And a big part of me creating and actively living my most abundant life is having fun and like bringing more fun into my life and not just being a workaholic robot. So if I'm a little low energy, it's just because I got back from adult camp, which was crazy in terms of the partying. It was like late night partying it up, and I had a really fun time, but I'm also like not a partier. I'm not a drinker. I'm not a like stay out late. So I like pushed myself to party it up a little more. I didn't like drink, but to be up late partying. And so I'm definitely feeling low energy after living this weekend. So yeah, I'm over here just an abundance coach living my most abundant life. And even though I'm tired, I was like, I'm really pumped to record this episode for you. So without further ado, let's get into emotional capacity. So one of the very first things that I teach my clients when they join Empowered Abundance is a concept and a framework that I created called the Path of Progress. And I'm not going to get all into the Path of Progress, but the simplest condensed version is that life is full of highs and lows, and that we often get stuck in this trap of thinking that someday, when I'm living my most abundant life, when I have more money, when things work out, when I'm happy, when I have all the things that I want, that I'm going to feel really good and I'm never going to have any problems. I'm never going to be faced with any challenges. I'm never going to feel shitty or crappy ever again. Like, things are just going to be awesome. And any challenges that I'm facing now, any money stress I'm facing now, any hardship, any struggles in my business, any low emotions or negative feelings, any internal conflicts, like all of that's going to go away. And when I tap into my most abundant self and my most abundant life, none of these things are here. None of these things are an issue. And if I could just sign more clients, have more money, have more time, have more freedom, then I will no longer have these problems and have these issues. The problem is that this is an inaccurate perspective of life. It's an inaccurate perspective of growth, and it's an inaccurate perspective of freedom, fulfillment, and abundance. Because the reality that we live in is like stuff is always going to happen. Life is not perfect. There is no one on this planet where everything is always 100% of the time magical rainbows and butterflies. You can have everything handed to you on a silver platter and have all the opportunities, all the money, everything in the world, and still be miserable. You can be living your most abundant life and then have random life chaos happen seemingly out of the blue, where like someone really close to you dies very suddenly, or a tree falls on your house, right? There's unexpected disaster, unexpected challenges, unexpected chaos that comes with life. And so the solution that we're working towards, this false perspective of abundance, we need to change that. If anything, the goal is not to arrive at a destination where everything is perfect and working and happy all the time, because that's not reality. And it's when we have this perspective, whether that's a conscious perspective or an unconscious perspective that we're not aware of, that actually prevents us from living a truly abundant life, because we have the expectation that abundance looks a certain way. And when we don't get there, when we don't reach that false version of abundance, it's very hard for us to actually feel and tap into what true abundance looks like. So that's where I want to start this conversation, is helping you bring awareness to, do you have this fake, false, inaccurate definition of abundance? And is that the thing that you're trying to work towards? Because if it is, here's a harsh news flash for you. You're not going to get there. I know we all think like we're going to get there, but we're not going to. And I've had this happen to me before. I myself have gotten stuck in this trap. 6 years ago when I started my coaching business and I was floundering around trying to figure it out, I was so upset and so frustrated. And I was like, why isn't it working? What am I doing wrong? If only I could make 6 figures or sign clients, then everything's going to be better and then everything's going to be different. And the reality was, it took me many years to get there. In the 5th year of my business, that's when I finally hit 6 figures. That's when I had been full-time in my business for a year. And so like I was flying high. It's like I did it. I achieved these goals. Things are working. It's happening. And at the same time, even though all that's true and I am actively living the life that 6 years ago me was dreaming of, humans love to evolve and love to keep growing. So even though like I've done it, in quotes, at the same time, I have new goals that I'm working towards, new things that I desire, new challenges I'm trying to achieve. And I can get so stuck in like reaching for the next thing that I lose the present celebration that is my life right now. Yes, I worked so hard to get here, but now that I'm here starts to become a little normal and mundane. And then I can get caught in the next goal and end up in the exact same place that I was in before. Why isn't it working? Why is it taking so long? What am I doing wrong? It's never gonna happen, right? I can still get so caught up in the same thing. And this is the exact same pattern that can keep us stuck on the never-ending hustle hamster wheel forever and ever. And this is the same foundation of not enoughness, feeling like no matter how hard we work or what we do or how much money we make, it's never enough. And we're still not able to fully live the thriving, fulfilling, abundant life that we desire. I have another example of this. This shocked me. This actually happened pretty recently, like within the past couple of months. I had a lot of challenging, hard things going on, like in my personal life, in my business. It felt just like back to back of getting hit with these unexpected things that were really confronting for my own identity, were really confronting for my business, was really like forcing me to deal with and address these underlying like people-pleasing tendencies and wanting to be a good person and wanting to honor my boundaries and who do I want to be in these challenges and how do I want to show up. And it was just hard. It was like really hard for me to just face these things that were popping up seemingly out of the blue. So I spent many weeks in like a low vibe state and was working really hard to like manage my emotions, balance my emotions, and at the same time just had this underlying feeling of mehness. And at the same time, I remember going to manage my money and look at all my bank accounts and do all my financial blueprinting, just like I teach all my clients how to do in Empowered Abundance, because this is, I practice what I preach. It's a key foundation to my work and my business. And it was the end of a month. I don't know when it was. Maybe it was April, maybe it was May, and I'm managing the money, and I look and I see that it was a $13,000 month, which is something that I had done before, but it's like on the higher end for me. And not only was it like a $13,000 month, but it had been 2 months in a row that was like a $13,000 month. And so if anything, I was seeing consistent $13,000 months. And in that moment, I remember looking at my spreadsheet and thinking, oh my gosh, it has happened to me. It has happened to me that I can have this like really high, awesome, amazing month in my business and at the same time like feel so horrible on the inside because the other things that are going on, this amount of money isn't like solving all of those problems and isn't bringing me that joy and isn't bringing me those feelings that I thought it would bring me. Like once I have these consistent 5-figure months, everything's going to be magical and amazing and I'm never going to feel crappy ever again. And yet here I was, feeling really crappy, even though things were going really well with my money. And honestly, I didn't even realize that I had a $13,000 month and I was feeling like stressed about money. And I was feeling like I didn't have enough and I was feeling worried and I was feeling like my business was failing because I hadn't looked at my money for a while and all of these emotional, internal, challenging things that were happening that was bleeding into my sense of self-confidence and financial confidence. And I see this happen to my clients all the time, is that especially when we don't actually see what's going on with our money. Like I forgot that that month was a really high month and I hadn't looked at it for a little while. I let all the other internal emotional things make me think that I wasn't okay financially and my emotions was bleeding into my money until I looked at the numbers and I said, wow, I guess I actually have a lot to celebrate here. And also, this is a great reminder that you can have all the money in the world and still feel really crappy. And that it's not just about chasing this big external goal of like having a certain amount of money. Having that amount of money can be really great. There's so many benefits to it, but it's only as beneficial as our capacity to experience that amount of money, to truly receive that amount of money. And when I say receive, I don't just mean like be handed and have that amount of money, but I mean like see it. Experience it, feel it, and be like, yes, I'm celebrating it. I'm in it. Like I have this money, like I have this life experience. And this comes back to the theme of this episode, which is expanding our emotional capacity. Because since the reality is that there's always going to be highs and there's always going to be lows, our goal is not to reach this destination where there's only highs and we never feel lows again. Our goal is to expand our capacity to experience, feel, and move through all of it, all of the highs and all of the lows, because that is actually the true definition of abundance. How I define it is abundance is about your capacity to feel and experience all of life. When we talk about the definition of rich, to be rich, and we think of richness, richness is a diversity of flavor, right? If you imagine having like a really rich chocolate cake, it's like thick, it's like dense. It's not just sweet. You might not know this about me. Okay, but I have a background in culinary. Culinary was my first love. I almost went to culinary school. I worked in like culinary for a really long time. And something that you learn in culinary is about the like different tastes: sweet, salty, bitter, umami, sour, right? The 5 primary tastes and taste profiles. And I remember this very distinctly. Someone came into my high school like culinary class and said, what is a really bad apple pie? Like, what's the problem with a really bad apple pie? And everyone in the class were sitting there, we're like, I don't know, like it's burnt. She's like, no, it's not burnt. It's cooked well. It's just not a good apple pie. Like, what's the thing that's wrong with it? And we couldn't answer it. And then she was like, it's too sweet. Like, when the pie is just sweet and that's the only flavor that it has, it's not a good apple pie. It's actually kind of nasty. It's really gross. Versus if you have an apple pie where you use like bitter apples and you put some lemon juice in there, so you got that sourness, but then you also put some sugar in there so it's nice and sweet, right? You need to have this mixture of flavors together, and it's the bitterness or the sourness or the umami combined with the sweetness that actually makes it taste good. Right? You need that sweet and you need that salty. Otherwise, it's just one flavor. It's just one note and it's gross. It's the same for life. That is freaking life. When we talk about richness, when you look at a rich chocolate cake, it's not just sweet. It's got complex, diverse, dense, extreme flavor. And that is what a rich life looks like. That is what an abundant life looks like. An abundant life is a life that has beautiful, magical, fun, free, fulfilling, epic highs. But an abundant life is also a life that has extreme, painful, devastating, hard, challenging lows. And it has both, because true abundance is about expanding your capacity to experience, feel, be, and receive all of the richness, all of the diversity, all of the capacity that life has to offer you. Because the problem with a life that is too sweet is that you can't enjoy it anymore. That sweetness becomes normal. It becomes mundane. It becomes neutral. It becomes blah, and it becomes gross. And you can't really appreciate it unless you have the bitterness, unless you have the epic lows, unless you have the epic challenges. Like, you don't have the ability to fully experience and receive the true beauty and the true benefit that is this life. And so the work, a lot of the foundational work that I teach my clients in the Empowered Abundance program is how to expand your capacity, how to expand your emotional capacity, your sense of safety, your sense of capability to be able to experience all of life to the fullest and to feel safe in that, to feel okay in that, how to ride through the challenges, how to ride through the lowest lows and let that be okay. And instead of that meaning that like something's wrong or that there's a problem or that you're not living your most abundant life and making that mean something about you and mean something about your life and have it become a huge, massive downward spiral, instead letting those lows be part of the journey. Letting those lows become part of the story of your abundant life. And instead of going into downward spiral mode and getting stuck there for an extended period of time, instead riding through those lows and choosing who you are in those lows, how you experience those lows, who you become as a result of those lows. Because every single epic low is followed by an incredible high. And in fact, your ability to go low and go into the really hard and go into the really sticky and go into the really challenging, if you're able to do that, the more that you're able to expand your capacity to feel such a low, the more that you've also expanded your capacity to feel such a high, right? Because that's how our body works. Our body has to feel safe to feel and experience emotions. And so if your most abundant life includes feeling like pure, ecstatic bliss and joy, you have to expand your emotional capacity to be capable of feeling and experiencing that. And how we do that is by also expanding our capacity to feel safe and experiencing the most devastating lows. And so often, we don't even realize how much we are repressing our emotions. And therefore, we are capping and blocking and limiting our emotional capacity. And examples of this is when we feel bored or crappy or icky or gunky, like what do? Instead of feeling that and being in that and letting that be okay, it's easy for us to numb out and distract, right? And I do this too. Like Netflix, man, like Netflix is my go-to. It's so easy for me to just like go to Netflix mode, but this can show up in other ways too. This is when we indulge in foods that aren't really what we desire, but just to fill that hole and make ourselves feel better. Like, oh, I feel crappy. Let me give myself a treat. For my clients who have shopping and spending addictions, yep, this is what I'm talking about. We're trying to fill that hole. And so I'm going to spend money so that I can feel better, so that I can feel happier, right? Maybe how we spend our time. What are we going to do to distract ourselves? Maybe we're getting high. Maybe we're getting drunk, whatever it is. I'm just trying to feel better. I'm trying to get out of this feeling. The problem with that is when you distract yourself from being able to experience the lows, to ride through them, to feel them, to let that be okay, rather than trying to get out of it as fast as possible with some distraction or some solution, what you're doing is you're blocking your ability to expand your emotional capacity. You're also blocking your ability to feel really high highs on the other side. This is why people can work really hard to try and achieve a goal, and then you get to that goal. Like, for example, maybe it's success in your business. You get there and you're like, I can't even really enjoy it fully. I don't know how. Like, I just don't feel that deep sense of joy. Emotional capacity, being able to feel deeply and feel fully through, that is something that has to be practiced. That is a skill that has to be developed. And it's normal that we don't have this skill. We're not taught it. And it's a safety mechanism of our bodies to try and get out of negative emotion, to try and run away from these feelings. But the problem is, it's like the life that we actually desire, our next level of abundance, it requires us to expand our capacity. Another problem that I often see is, especially in the personal growth world and the think positive to manifest what you want world, often we limit ourselves from thinking negative and therefore feeling negative at all. And this just becomes a round the back way of avoiding feeling negative emotions. We're like, oh, I don't want to feel this way, or I don't want to say the underlying thoughts that I'm having that's making me feel crappy because I don't want to call it into existence. I don't want to give it attention. I don't want to give it energy because I don't want to manifest it. Now, yes, 100%. We want to stay in a positive mindset and a positive energy as much as freaking possible. But at the same time, if we're doing that by trying to get away from negative emotions, ignoring negative emotions, pretending like they don't exist and shoving them into a corner and then just focusing on being positive, what's happening is those negative emotions are still there. They're still impacting us. They're still controlling us. And if anything, it creates stagnant energy. It creates a block in our manifestations. It creates a block in our ability to live and create our most abundant lives because we haven't moved through the emotions. We haven't processed them. We haven't released them. We haven't let the energy continue to flow. And so even though a majority of our mindset is working really hard to focus on the positive thing, there's still a chunk of our energy over here getting stuck in the negativity. And so this is where I see a lot of personal growth mentality tripping people up. It's not that you should never feel negative emotions and only focus on the positive. It's how do you show up and move through the negative emotions? How do you process those emotions quickly and then come out the other side so that all of your energy can then be redirected back to the positive? And again, this is a practice and this is a skill to be able to know how to feel the lows, how to feel those emotions, allow yourself to experience them and move through you completely so that you're expanding your capacity in that negative direction. And then all of that becomes momentum that slingshots you forward into the direction that you want to go. Any time that we are suppressing our emotions, running away from our emotions, only trying to stay positive, only trying to stay happy, what we're doing is we're slowing down our momentum. We're capping our capacity and we're blocking ourselves from stepping into our next level of abundance. And this is how a majority of us are living our lives without even realizing it. And so in order to solve this, we need to build the foundations for one, learning how to feel safe in all emotions, how to feel safe in the expansion of our capacity to feel and be in and experience all emotions. And then beyond that, not only feeling safe in riding the highs and riding the epic lows, but also taking it to the next level, learning to enjoy that ride. And this is where the dial of abundance gets turned up to the next level. And this is really the secret to true abundance. It's not just expanding your capacity to feel the lows and feel the highs. It's finding a deeper sense of joy and enjoyment in that entire ride, which means being fully in the negative, being fully in the hardship, being fully in the discomfort, the sadness, the pain, the frustration, feeling it, experiencing it, letting it move through you, and at the same time, finding that other part of you, that abundant part of you, that higher self part of you, that's like, wow, what a gift that I get to feel these deep emotions. What a gift to feel this level of pain and hurt and suffering. What a gift to get to feel this intense sensation. Wow. This is what it's like to be alive. This is what it's like to have so much richness and diversity and expansion in my life. Right? If you can tap into that part of you that can enjoy the lows, that can love the roller coaster ride that is life, that is when you crack the code into true abundance. Because then it doesn't matter if things are going well. It doesn't matter if you never have any problems. It doesn't matter if life throws you challenges and obstacles and hardships. It doesn't matter if it's not all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns all the time. What matters is that no matter what's going on, you're able to feel safe, stable, and even happy and content in everything that's going on. And then nothing can truly faze you. Yes, you're still going to feel crappy, but instead of that being a problem, that becomes part of the path of progress. That becomes part of living your most abundant life. And let me tell you, that is the only way to get there, because like I said at the beginning, life is always going to have challenges. You're always going to feel crappy. You're always going to have bad days. No matter if you're making 5-figure months or not, you're still going to feel that way. But it's about who you are in those highs and who you are in those lows. And this is why this work is such a key foundation to the work I teach you in the Empowered Abundance program, because the reality is if it doesn't matter how many boxes you check, how many goals you achieve, how much money you manifest. If you do not have the emotional capacity to experience fully the richness of life, to move through and flow through the highs and lows of life, and to still find the abundance and be connected to and tapped into the abundance of that experience, then you are perpetually keeping yourself away from your most abundant life. And the good news is that no matter where you're starting from, no matter how much money you have, no matter what your life looks like right now, this deeper, truer sense of abundance and fulfillment and freedom, it's possible for you to feel it right now. These are the foundations that have to be built right now. And then the reality is once you unlock this skill set, once you become this version of you, once you have expanded your emotional capacity, then you also expand your financial capacity. And that's when you open up the door for more money to flow into your life, but then you also have the ability to hold it and feel safe with it and experience the life that comes with it. And so instead of chasing more and really only focusing on like the tangible, I need more money and then all my problems are going to be solved, instead, what we need to do is build the foundations now of stepping into and cultivating our most abundant lives by expanding our emotional capacity to feel abundant now, based on this true definition of abundance. And when you do that, that's when the abundant life that you desire not only becomes possible, but it becomes inevitable. And that's why I'm so passionate about this work, because this is exactly what I'm teaching all my clients. It's also what I am constantly experiencing for myself. And this is a journey that keeps going, right? I have drastically expanded my emotional capacity over the past 6 years in my business, and I'm continuing to do it. But that's a good thing. That's the part we get to enjoy. That's the part we get to experience. And it has been such a gift to experience this for myself and to watch the way that money flows in tandem with me doing this deep work for myself. So I'm going to leave you with that this week. That is what I have for you. If you are interested in expanding your emotional capacity even bigger so that you can truly live an abundant life and experience fully the abundance that is here for you, like this kind of deep, real abundance that I'm talking about here, then the Empowered Abundance program is the place to do it. Because in Empowered Abundance, I give you these deep emotional and mental and internal work foundations that are the key to truly living a fulfilling and thriving and abundant life. But on top of that, we don't just do the internal work. Empowered Abundance is a very practical and grounded and tangible and real program as well, because I teach you how to get in control of your money, to manage your money, to be strategic, to be intentional with your finances. And so Empowered Abundance is really the only program where we go deep into both the internal side of your actual mindset, beliefs, emotions, identity, but also the tangible work of using your money as a tool strategically to achieve any financial goal and bring the life that you desire into reality. So if you want to learn more about Empowered Abundance and take the next step to cultivating this level of abundant life, then you can schedule a free consultation with me using the link in the show notes below or by going to my website, thebizhippie.com/abundance. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your Money Monday, and I will see you next week.